What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. On today's show, Meta's Llama 4 dropped last week, but they're not the only ones that are promising new models. So are we entering a new cycle of constant expected releases in 2025? Who's playing offense? Who's playing defense in this current wave? And while we'll be talking about what just dropped, we'll also be talking about what models are coming next and why that probably matters more than ever. So, with it's Monday. With AI rapidly advancing, that's hard to say. We've got you covered here on the show because this is the Daily AI Show, and we are here every single weekday, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And we're, here to help you make sense of all this sort of AI madness. So today is April 7th, 2025. And joining me today on the show are Beth, Jimmy, Carl, and Brian. And other than that rough intro on a Monday, just goes to show you, even I don't care how many times I've done these intros, how easy it is to just trip up over the words. But I will, as I usually do when I start tripping over my own words, is throw it to somebody else. So Beth, I want to throw it over to you because we were just talking off camera right before we went live. And, you were sort of just talking about not only Llama 4, but some of the stuff we've had prior to that this year. And, are we just getting a lot of, hey, I want to stay in the news cycle? Or is this, is it bigger than that? What's your initial takes on sort of Q1 as we rolled out of Q1 in 2025?
So I think that what we're seeing is that what we're potentially seeing is that the improvements are better and coming faster. We'll talk a little bit more at the end of the week why maybe that is not a call to spend all of your attention on what's new today and that kind of stuff. But we did get 2.5 we got Gemini 2.5, which was a significant advance. People who are using it are saying, wow, this is a really big thing. We got that on March 26th, the day after OpenAI released their image generator. And if you believe them, they were surprised. I don't know why they're surprised. They're always surprised. Like, what? You like it? Yes, we do. So those were, while not necessarily new numbers in terms of releases, were significant in the experience of engaging in that model. Then Llama dropped this weekend, Saturday. No tease, no, just like, boom, here you go. It drops the lower two, the lowest ones, Scout, Maverick, and Behemoth. Scout, and Behemoth didn't drop. Wait, it was tease announced. It's still being trained, right? And Friday, as if you were watching the show with Carl on Friday, Carl broke the news from Sam's tweet that we're expecting O3 and O4 mini. Sam said to expect them in the next couple weeks. And then and then we can release GPT-5 a little bit later, and Anthropic, sorry, I'm spacing what his position is, but he's in the know, said, Claude 4 maybe in the next 6 months, right? Uh, all I could find about DeepSeek R2 is DeepSeek R2 denies that they're dropping, or DeepSeek denies they're dropping R2, which is the news through denial, right? And I think part of that is attached to their paper. There's just a bunch of things that feel like the change is being more significant when it's engaged. That said, Midjourney is kind of like, but Runway, right? Dropped Runway,
Or
4, which is also it's just those kinds of pieces where I think we're starting to see that the drop is a significant jump
yeah,
in experience of what you can do.
yeah. No, I think you're right. And sorry, I do want to call this out. I feel like all I want to say, Jimmy, is Llama Llama red pajama because you've got a red hoodie on. I realize it's not pajamas, but for anybody that's got kids or just knows what llama, I think a lot of people actually know what Llama Llama red pajama is because a lot of the rappers will do the book almost like a Dr. Seuss book. Anyway, I had to get that out of my head because I would have just been focusing it on for the rest of the show, but that's not. That's that's neither here nor there. It's just where my brain was on this Monday morning. Um, what I was gonna say is, Beth, and this is to everybody, but I'm just curious what you guys think. This is just opinion, and by the way, everybody in the comments answer this too. Do we actually feel like there's bigger jumps in 2025 between these releases for whatever reason, like Llama 4 is multimodal and has a mixture of experts, and Behemoth has got 2 trillion total parameters, like whatever, right? Whatever factors you want to use in here. Or were we really saying the same thing last year and even potentially in 2023? Does it just feel that way because of the hype cycle, but because actually what we're being fed by the founders and the owners and the CEOs, and just how the hype cycle would naturally pick up year over year as AI hits more and more of the mainstream? So we're seeing more of it. I know we're still in our bubble, but we're seeing more of it. Or is it actually different in 2025? What do you guys think? And also in the comments, let us know what you think as well.
I feel like OpenAI's 12 days kind of reset the expectation, right? Like we're gonna get, "Ooh, use spell check now." They don't. Sorry, don't
Yeah.
do that. But like that kind of thing, like, really? That was like a big 12 days or whatever. Um, maybe these are coming back to big releases, but it does feel bigger to me than what we had been experiencing.
Jimmy, Carl?
Um, I think it's I think what we're seeing is more a solidification of what the cycle's going to be. Because if I remember correctly, even in 2023, wasn't this around the time that like 3.5 or 4 came out?
It would have been 4, but,
Yeah,
good
right.
call. Let me find out. What
Yeah.
what Go for it.
So what it sounds like is okay. So end of Q1, beginning of Q2, bunch of stuff comes out. End of Q4 is a bunch of stuff out. Like, we've already noticed that the fall is a time for a bunch of releases. Then if we're talking September, October, November, then wait 4 or 5 months, and then we start again. So, it sounds like a 6-month cycle. Now, whether it's just that's just the hype cycle. Now, whether the releases are getting bigger, that probably needs a little more analysis, and I have a feeling that, and this is just off the top of my head, I'd have to really look into it, but I have a feeling that they will tend to be in the 2 places. What it feels like to me is, movie releases, right? Summer blockbuster. That is,
Mm.
worked into our vernacular. It's the same kind of thing, right? So in the fall and in the spring, you're going to see our blockbusters. Um, I think with how quickly AI is advancing, in between time is when we're gonna get that's the small iterative kind of like, "Oh, here's a quality of life update. Here's this. Keep in the cycle. Keep your attention to us. Go onto our platform. Stay on our platform." Right? Those kinds of things. And so, yeah, that's kind of the framework that I'm seeing here. I do think as AI becomes more advanced, the significance, or significant jumps or feature sets, uh, is gonna have more impact. So, uh, like, for example, Runway with Gen 4, a Gen 4 release, all right? Yes, convenient, their Gen 4 release, comes off of a runway of hype, um, of lots of, video generation, right? We're talking, we saw that Pika came out with their 2.1 or 2.2. We saw that there's a bunch of Chinese models, that one came in from Alibaba. Um, and we're seeing that kind of cycle going on. And then it's like, "Oh, all right, you guys are all catching up." And now here's Gen 4, which answers a big question or a big hurdle,
Mm.
And that's what would call a major release is all right, everyone's had enough time to try it, find their use cases, see where their roadblocks still are, where their barriers are, and then your answer comes out, right? Now we've got
Way to look at
character
it.
consistency, those
Yeah.
those kinds
But
of things.
but that is actually a really good example of the kind of flavor of release that we're getting, because what's really exciting about that is the character consistency, which isn't actually released yet, right? It's like, I
Yes,
mean,
announcement versus release. Yeah, we should reiterate just in case if someone's just coming into the cycle now.
Mhm.
When so if anybody's listening to this and they're new, when you hear something has been announced, there's no guarantee and very little chance that you'll be able to get your hands on it. You got to wait
right.
a couple more months. Yeah.
But and then so if we look, because I want to get to Carl and get the answer from there. By the way, real quick, March 14, 2023 was 4. Just want to answer that since you had brought that up. So just about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. Um, but what I was going to say is, what was my other point really quick? Oh, uh, we'll talk about more about Gemini, well, later on Friday this week as also today as far as 2.5. There's a good example of Google sort of, I don't know, maybe reversing course a little bit and learning from their past missteps where it was a lot more highly curated videos and splash and flash about what it could do, and then it was usually a letdown on the other side of it. And so I think all the companies do have to be careful about that. If you're going to be Runway and you're going to say something as important as consistent characters, which for anybody that's sort of in our realm, that has been a high gold standard of yes, but when it's able to do this, it unlocks like this massive ability across all sorts of industries that really need that. Um, if you're going to come out and say that you've accomplished that, and you show some videos on your website, and you're like, "Look at this," y- it better deliver because and Runway has actually been pretty good about that. So I don't actually like Act One to me was as good as they said Act One was going to be. And some other areas I don't play in it a ton, but yeah, you better deliver on it because that's a major step versus saying like we have a new model that has. I'm not picking on Behemoth. I'm just saying like I'm saying that you have a new model that's trained on more parameters. It doesn't hit the same. Like are you really gonna know if they show you some flashy, splashy stuff? Are you gonna really know the difference between so many billions and so many billions in parameters or maybe trillions in Behemoth's case? I'm not
Just
really
you wait. Just you wait. Behemoth's around the corner, man. When
yeah.
you see Behemoth, Behemoth is gonna yeah, like do 1 trillion, one tetra, whatever, like whatever.
I know. I mean, sometimes I just think you throw bigger numbers at things in AI, and it's like, yeah, this is what we're doing now. It's like when they throw out how much money they've raised. It's like everything is in the billions, and even that seems like somebody raised $10 billion. Do you go, is that it? Is that all they could really get in their series, in their latest round? I don't know. This seems kind of like a disappointment
Right.
versus 3 years ago, 10 billion by any company would have been an absurd number of investment. And then with AI, it's kind of like we just kind of like meh, meh, you know,
I
like
really
tell me
want
something better than that. I'm not impressed anymore. Impress me more, which has got to be maddening for the companies because they've up leveled so quickly that like the public now is like kind of we just kind of shrug our shoulders at some of these things.
Well,
Carl, you can
their
certainly
fault.
talk about Microsoft and Copilot.
It's their fault. So they have to reap what they sow.
All right, it's
Sorry.
their fault. Okay.
Yeah.
Carl, what are your thoughts, man? Do you think this is like just sort of circling back and then whatever else? But is it different in 2025 or is this a continuation of probably if we were to go back and yeah, quote unquote rewind and go back on the show to last year and just pick an episode? Were we saying the same thing like, "Oh, man, 2024 is off to the races in Q1, and oh my god, the level of improvements." Is it more in 2025, or is it do you think it's just like we're so used to this now, it's like, "Oh, it's in the hype cycle."
Well, I remember in 2024, it was a lot slower because I remember we got GPT 4.0. Then it wasn't until O1 released, I think it was released in July or September. I can't remember, or July or August.
I will fact check it.
I'm I was sitting in a prospect office when it dropped and I was looking through it and we were talking about it. And I think and then all the models started putting in reasoning, and then
Yeah.
then it's
December 5th, by the way. 01.
September 5th.
December 5th.
No, I mean like the
What?
preview.
Oh, Olin preview.
What?
Olin
Like
preview.
there was some people who got it, some people didn't. I remember
September 12th.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit a while ago. September 12th.
And then after that, it was all that stuff happened. But if you look at 2024 in a whole, outside of December and maybe a little bit of November, it felt a little slower because it was just like incremental releases. But then once shipments happened, once January happened, January, February, March, everything just skyrocketed. So it was kind of crazy. So I wasn't sure. Like now, I do feel that there's so much news that outside of the AI bubble, most people really aren't paying attention outside of the image generation. The image generation was a pretty significant moment outside the AI bubble because you started hearing people who normally don't talk about that stuff. And you're like, oh, they heard about that and they used it. Not that they sign up and use it for anything else, but they used it it because people were starting to talk about it, and then it's like, and they wanted to try it out. But I think it was an interesting llama drop on the Saturday. Then you got Sam talking about something else. Then what's gonna happen with DeepSeek? What's gonna happen? We haven't heard from Mistral in a while, so what's gonna happen there? Reasoning and so on. So we're excited about it because we can talk about it and we can try it. But then I think in general, can't remember what show we talked about this, where like people are starting to kind of not switch between models anymore. They kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna stick with this model because in a couple months, in a week, 2 weeks, it'll all kind of like even out. Or I just don't have time to switch models and play with one over the other. So if I'm a Gemini user, I'm a Gemini user. If I'm an OpenAI user, I'm an OpenAI user. If I'm a Claude user, I like Claude, and that's kind of it. You don't.
Oh,
Very few people
you
switch.
you mean like I thought you were saying like switching in ChatGPT between 4 or 4.0, 4.5. You mean like Gemini versus Claude versus
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's very few people that I know. It's like, oh, I use 3 of them and I switch because it's like, no, I'll use this one. Mostly ChatGPT, but like if people like Claude, they like Claude. If they like Gemini, they stick with Gemini. I've met one person who likes Copilot. Can't move them off who actually pays Copilot, not company Copilot, personal Copilot. Oh,
Right.
like you're rare, but that's what that person likes to use. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay. And mind you, I haven't met anybody who screams to the rooftops about the llama, though. I haven't like there's a lot of open source that like to build with it. But
Mhm.
as a model, have you heard of like complete llama advocates? I hear open source advocates, but not like I am a pure llama user, and that's kind of it.
Well, I think that situation's slightly different is because they don't have it's a it's a back-end type model, right? Like you said, they like to build on it. They like to use it for other things, or they like to build other products using Llama. Llama's the back end of it. But
Yeah, but you can go to meta.ai and use it as a chat.
sure, you can, but who uses Meta to use Llama, right? You know what I'm saying? Like who uses Facebook to go and try and use the Llama AI? I think it's more of, hey, we just want you to develop for us. That's why it was open sourced and put it into your backend products because that's who's going to use it. Just like Claude is like, oh, we're coder friendly, so we want you to use us as part of your coding product. It seems to be like OpenAI is taking the clear front runner for, hey, you're a client or customer. I want you to live here in OpenAI. Here's up
Yeah.
front. And when anyone asks, oh, what foundational AI models do you know? The answer you get is, oh, you mean ChatGPT, right? So it's that awareness step, I think.
Speaking of, I just want to throw this in there. I was talking to my neighbor who is coder developer. I don't know his specific title. But I told him about Claude and Perplexity for the first time 2 nights ago. So it just goes back to the point of what we've said 100 times on the show, but it was a personal thing where you go, oh, well, surely if they're into coding, they're aware of it. And in his particular case, he was talking about the struggles of actually using ChatGPT for coding and how it's often wrong, at least for him, in what he was trying to do. And so I was saying like, well, have you tried Claude? And then I was bringing up Perplexity as a side, topic essentially, just because we were talking about AI. But just anyway, just throwing that out there. Doesn't no right here. I just thought about it, but it's like it just goes to show that there's still tons and tons of people who aren't necessarily familiar with all these different tools and stuff like that, which goes to your point, Carl, about they're not really switching back and forth. Now, I will say that I used Meta.ai to literally go to it. You have to sign in with your Facebook account, but it is free. Well, call it what you want. It's free the way Facebook is free. You're paying through ads, you're paying through your data, right? Okay. But it's I used it a lot last year for a few months when it came to image generation, because if we remember, Dolly 3 came out and it would give you 4 images, but then it went down to 1 almost immediately because of like how many people were using it. And I was like, yeah, that's taking me forever to create images. This is back when I was doing the thumbnails for the show more often. And then Meta came out and I was like, or Llama, but Meta.ai, and had to log into it. And they would give you 4 images. And they were the first ones that I remember playing with this on the show, Beth, where like you would start typing your prompt and it would change the images immediately on the screen to start giving you an idea. So if like you added one word, the image would change. It was like this super rapid fire diffusion. And I had never seen that before. Where it was giving these really fast prototypes of images, but I found to be like super, super helpful because you could get quicker to it. And then once you hit enter, it would actually then go and create 4 images. And what was interesting is one of those 4 images wasn't always exactly the thing you would see as the preview to it. And I feel like, am I freezing for you guys?
Yeah, but we can
Yeah.
still hear you.
Yeah. I wonder if I have it on the highest mode on here. I'm going to go down to, yeah, let me throw it over to you guys. I have it on full HD resolution, so I'm going to just pull back a little bit, see if that helps a bit on here. I'm not sure what's going on. But anyway, I did pull up we can share this really quick on the screen because we were talking about last year rather. So I used, where are you? I used Google's AI mode, which is in sort of like preview right now. So you can go do that by turning it on through Google's like AI Studio Experimental, I think, on it. But now we have this AI mode. Go check it out. It feels like a Perplexity. It's their version of like what that would look like. It's different than using the regular AI where you get just the snippet at the top. This is more of like a follow-up. So I was just curious. I said like, tell me some of the things from 2024. So it said like we got 4.0 in May. We also got 4.0 mini. Not to forget that they announced Sora, but then we got Sora way later in the year. And by the time we got Sora, people were less impressed with Sora, but it got released. O1 and O1 mini came out. O3 and O3 mini were announced later in 2024, with O3 expected to achieve breakthroughs on benchmarks. Um, ChatGPT search, enable ChatGPT search, which we discussed, and advanced voice mode, which I would say was actually a pretty big leap forward. I was going to say the biggest leap forward in 2024 was actually the deep research that you were referencing, Carl, but I kind of forgot about advanced voice mode and how much of a leap that was. That was ChatGPT, Gemini, or Google. We had Gemini 2.0 came out in December. We've already gotten 2.5, so you can see how fast that's moving. A whole bunch of different pros and flashes along the way. They talked about, it's not out, but Project Astra, if you remember them talking about, basically they showed a demo, again, a very slick demo. We haven't really heard a ton about Astra since seeing that slick demo. So that's an iffy one. VO and VO2 and Imagen 3. Well, I mean, I've said this 100 times. Google's what they call VO2 here, but basically the video generator is by far the best, better than Kling, better than Sora, better than anything else I've used up to this point. So to me, they're leading the video generation, at least the 8-second version of that. Then Meta came out
I
with,
can't get it.
what's that?
VO is released to you because you're labs early adopter kind of guy.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I made the cut on that. I mean, I signed up like everybody else for these early experimental things or whatever, but I got Video FX months ago at this point.
Right.
And I use it all the time. I use it in the newsletter. I use it all the time. I don't think I'm supposed to, but I use it all the time. I'm not doing anything commercial with it, so I don't think I've gotten slapped on the wrist. And once I saw Ethan Malik sharing his, I was like, well, if Ethan can do it, I can do it.
So the reason that I'm breaking in and saying that is that, sorry if you can hear that. The reason I'm breaking in and saying it is because it feels like that's a back pocket thing that Google still has that it
Mm.
drop is public access to it because there's some places that have included it in their service
Yeah.
via API, but
Yeah.
it's not open to the public yet.
No, you're right. You can go to file.ai and actually use the VO2 model. It is not cheap. So every day that I'm able to use it for free inside the AI experimental side, I'm very happy because through to get that same 8-second clip, I don't want to say it's $1, but it's not cheap. But I will say that's just showing the actual true value of how good I think it is. Obviously, those costs will come down. So anyway, we had Meta stuff. We had Anthropic's 3.5 Sonnet. Remember last year is when they broke it out, and we get Opus and Sonnet and Haiku. That was the first time we saw 3 different models, kind of similar to what Llama is done this year. Then all the NVIDIA stuff, and then other notables in here. You can see there's nothing in here about Perplexity. I wonder why AI mode isn't telling us anything about Perplexity. No, I don't know. No, there maybe there's a conspiracy there. Maybe there's not. But AI mode is obviously sort of a direct competitor to what Perplexity has been doing in there. So I don't know. It's funny, right? You look back at last year and you go, "Oh wow, yeah." I don't know. At least me, advanced voice mode. That was a leap. Claude breaking out to Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus to me was a pretty significant leap. And then remember like Sonnet and then you had Opus, and then what? In 4 months, Sonnet 3.5 came out and was better than Opus. So like within months of themselves, the middle have leapfrogged the best of the models, and I think we'll probably see something like that with Llama 4. This is Llama 4. Llama 4 is their first true multimodal model as well, is it not?
They say it is, yeah.
Yeah. And mixture of experts too, right? Isn't it the first model to do both of those? Maybe.
I don't know, has anyone tried, like, actually used? Because I haven't actually used Llama, so I'm not sure.
I haven't either. I haven't done it because again, like Jimmy's point, you're kind of doing that more on the API side of it,
Yeah.
on there.
They
Right.
say multimodal, but I think it's image, not video, and I'm not sure about
That
voice.
that's correct. It's only
So
image. It's not video yet.
but, like, and yes, that is what multimodal used to mean, but it's not so much what it means now, right? I mean, like, I
Well, I mean, if you're launching stuff and you can see what 2.5 came out with, 2.5 to me is multimodal. When we did it, we showed it on the show. We were shocked by it. I think a little bit off the show. We were working on a side project and we asked it some pretty good questions about a YouTube, and all we gave it was a URL. And I don't know, shocked me. I won't talk for everybody, is we tested this and validated. I showed it on the show too, but just as a reminder for people, what was different about 2.5, what is different about 2.5 is we gave it the URL, and then I knew in this particular video that they showed a sign, but that the couple that are on this video did not read the sign out loud. So I knew for a fact it was not in the audio or the transcript. It had just flashed by. Now, it's probably on the video for less than 5 seconds. And not only did Gemini 2.5 have no issue reading the sign verbatim back in its answer, but also referenced 2 or 3 other times that it talked about this particular town that this couple was walking through in the Grand Canyon, and referenced it back. So really, like when you think about multimodal, like, I'm like, well, okay, the bar is Gemini 2.5 because, or I'll say experimental, since that's specifically the one we were using when we did that demo. Because that was at another level to me. Oh, you can see, you can hear, you can you can comprehend, obviously, the text, we had that or whatever, and you're doing it, and I think the answers were coming back in less than 2 minutes. That's pretty phenomenal. That's pretty phenomenal to me. So I'm not really sure where Llama is, but to me, that would have to be, or OpenAI for the matter, that would have to be the benchmark. Like, can you do a 2.5 is literally anybody can do for free. And that's the difference too. 2.5 experimental is available to anybody right now for free. So anybody that's curious and being like, I don't know if it would, go try it. And in fact, the thing I haven't tried, but apparently will also work is you can give it more than one YouTube URL. So that's another thing to test is like, can I give it more than one URL and have it looking at both of those? That's another level for me, as far as the multimodal side goes. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. You're only limited by your token window and in the things that accept the YouTube videos from AI Studio, which is 2.5, 2.0, and 2.0 Lite, Flash, 2.0 and 2.0 Lite. You're only limited by your token window size, your context size. So you can add more. That said, when we add our videos, we have used 970,000 out of a million tokens. So just tiny little conversations you can have with our stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little lighthearted, but maybe maybe to clarify some standardizations, because that's one of the big things too, is we're always redefining or creating new definitions of what multimodal is and
Right.
what's what are these standards? What is AGI? Because there isn't any clear standard from any like standards organization or anything like that. So maybe we need to take a moment or step to actually jump ahead. When we talk about multimodal or true multimodal, maybe that definition needs to be every sensory type. So not just text, not just image, not just video, but it's got to be like taste and touch and smell. You know, I'm kinda joking here, but with the advancements that we've seen in interactability with embodied AI, AKA robots, that's what those sensors they're coming out with sensors that read those kinds of, that kind of data or that kind of input. So, either it's always gonna be a shifting definition and there won't be any real definition, or we've gotta jump so far ahead that it's like, I don't think this I don't think this AI can even possibly do that. It's like, well, you say that now, but maybe in 10 years it can, or 5 years, or 3 years. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think that's part of the barrier or difficulty about AI literacy is you can't just ask it, "Oh, define AGI for me." Well, define who's AGI and what is important to what you would consider AGI. So it has to be your like personal context or reference to it, which which makes things exhausting.
So one thing people brought up in the comments that I don't think we brought up is Grok. And, that's not a mission by, on purpose, but there's another, full language model. Did we have Grok in 2023 at all? I think it all started in 2024, correct? Yeah, again, another thing we need to fact check on that. But yeah, you're on mute too, Beth. But I know there's things in the background. Beth is dealing with things outside of her control in her building and stuff like that. So I get it. But yeah, I think, obviously Grok and what they came out with and how I was saying how impressed I was with how quickly they deployed their data centers. I think it's in Memphis, or maybe not Nashville. I think it was Memphis, where they deployed that and how quickly they did that. And then how quickly they doubled again the capacity of those data centers. And Elon Musk talked about that really briefly at the end of one of their live Grok sessions. For the last 5 minutes of that live, it was at midnight or something that night last year or last year. Who knows in the time of AI? It could have been 2025. But he talked about that and those improvements. And that's maybe something we could talk about too, is the infrastructure side of all these developments. So I'm familiar with the data centers that OpenAI talks about and how Sam says like oh, we're the image generation was so popular that like we're now having to tamper expectations. You're now going to get this pivot of O3 and O4 mini. But O5 is going to come later now than when we originally did because X, Y, and Z. And obviously you hear about Grok and their data centers and stuff. I couldn't tell you a thing about Meta's data centers or whether they already had them built and that was part of, Facebook's already ecosystem and they're just, using those data centers or whether they've literally broken ground and completed net new data centers, the way we hear from like Microsoft and others. It's funny how like some things hit the news cycle and then some things just completely don't. And I don't really know why that's the case, but like I don't know about you guys. I couldn't tell you a thing about what Meta is. I could say Llama. What Meta, aka Facebook, has built infrastructure wise that is running Llama 4. I don't know.
So one of the things that I do research on when I put the shows together is keywords and Meta AI and Llama 4 and Llama 2 versus 3, Llama 3, Llama 4, right? It's so much lower. That like the people searching that are like at like orders of magnitude fewer. So I think that we don't know it because there just haven't been that many people interested. I'm sure at some point Zuckerberg said, I have purchased like every other thing that NVIDIA will let me purchase or like whatever that is. But
Yeah, I mean, he kind of does just his videos, right? With Llama 4, the first time I saw it was just on Facebook, where he was like, "Hey, this is what we're doing." He talks directly to the camera. He's got his own system, his own social media, right? So like he has a built-in way to communicate with people the way that obviously Elon Musk would have X and stuff like that. But then you look at somebody like Jensen Huang and what he has to when he releases or Dario with Anthropic, like they have to lean on other people's social media to get their message out. But Zuckerberg's just like, I'd imagine he has like a big red button on his phone and he's like, citizens of the world, and he just presses the red button. It stops all traffic on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and everything else that's a part of the ecosystem of Meta, and he just goes direct live. Like, can anybody stop him or their checks and balances, or can Zuck just literally hit the red button and go live to the masses like you see in the movies where somebody, the fuzzy screen comes in and the evil person, protagonist or antagonist comes on the screen and says, I'm cutting out this feed or whatever.
I'm curious. Can someone confirm that those lives go to Facebook as well? Because he released
dude, that's where I see him.
okay, because he releases on X. That's where I see it. So I'm assuming those happening on Elon's platform
No,
because that's where the conversation about AI is happening.
I'm that
Yes.
47-year-old that's definitely still on Facebook. I know a lot of people give it a lot of you know what, but you can't touch Facebook groups as far as I'm concerned. I'll die on that hill. Nobody else has quite literally like replaced that. And so, I'm on Facebook all the time. I will say their marketplace is like an eBay killer in a lot of ways and Craigslist killer and has grown considerably. And like, when do you ever hear about AI as it applies to Facebook Marketplace? But it's in there with Meta. It's part of it. It has improved the experience on Facebook Marketplace, or obviously with groups, which have obviously gotten a lot better as well with AI. But it's not something that really hits the mainstream yet. They're Dalton Cisco said, "Don't scale that hill." Listen. I'm on the hill. I got my flag planted. It says, "Facebook is still cool. Come at me. I'm 47 and I'm right where I'm supposed to be." So
I'm
I
pretty
am the
sure.
I'm the guy that's walking in the grocery store and I'm like, "This song kicks." And they're like, "Yeah, you're the target audience there, buddy. You belong in Publix because you're rocking out to whatever you're rocking out to Eve 6, and I'm like, right where I'm supposed to be. They got me.
Yeah. You
Well,
realize I am
that's the
singing out loud, but
that's
eBay would
the
like a word. eBay would like a word about how
oh man.
marketplace is killing them. June.
I was just gonna say it's you are the target demographic when the car commercial plays music from your heyday.
Oh,
That's like the gauge.
yeah.
It's like,
You,
so if
you,
you've
you've,
seen,
you've got the cash.
you got it. You got
Yeah.
you're
Right.
there, and they're trying to get you to buy,
Yeah.
$40,000 car or whatever.
Yeah. 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 As a cheap, economy. Uh, 40,000. You want the bottom of the line? We got it for you. Here's your 40,000 junker at this point. Yay, tariffs. So, all right. So where do we want to go with this? I know we're kind of going towards the back end here. Cisco's saying, okay, so Brian has a Facebook thing, Carl has a recycling thing, and Copilot thing. What's Beth's, Jimmy, and Andy's? So Beth and Jimmy, what's your thing? What's your hill you're gonna die? That's a good question. It's probably a better show for a different one, but I'm curious because we know Carl will go off the deep end on recycling if we get into robots. And yes, Microsoft slash Copilot. Beth, Jimmy, you wanna put a flag on a hill? You wanna claim your spot yet?
I can go on a big rant. Jimmy has heard this many times. When you do things in your freaking models, think about the UI. It drives me bonkers that I am an old and I want to move my cursor to the beginning of the line so that I can type there, but I can't. Because if you click at the front of the box in ChatGPT, it does not understand that you would like to be before the first letter. And it's like, are you kidding me? Is this like, don't people do this? This is one of the reasons that I love the talking to it, because that's fine.
Yeah.
So that's my hill that I'm gonna die on.
I,
Give us
in this context, I think I can play off of that is, um, use existing UI or UX standards until you can build the AI-ified version.
Mm.
Copy, paste. I want to be able to copy from one and paste it in the other. I want to be able to download a thing. I don't like, all of this exists already. The spell check. Yes, why can't you put that in? It's Ajax. It's Web 2.0. We've had it for over a decade. Just
Yeah.
put it in your web app. It's okay that it isn't everything is AI. These are all quality of life things that everybody is used to. So put the actual version of it now and then replace it with the AI-ified version. We get it. We get it. You want to do like, oh, our AI can do absolutely everything. It's like, okay, cool. But we're not there yet. You're there. We're trying to get there. So help us out by, if we need a ramp, then give us a ramp. I just want a little bit of those things to where, and if you do, OpenAI, I know, like Brian, like you said, we know Sam himself watches every single episode
He
as
does.
our show.
Yeah.
So,
We've influenced some of their future releases. We've
of
seen
course,
it.
of course. So if you're watching, which we know you are, just add these features, and guess what? I will have no inclination of ever leaving your platform. Why? Because you do everything for me. I'm just saying. I think if your goal is to capture the attention and the audience, and then they just live in your ecosystem, then those are the kinds of things you need to fix. Have two teams. You got billions upon billions of dollars. You could probably use your own tool to build the code that you need to just run it on your web. Okay, I'm done ranting.
No, no, no. Listen, that's what we asked. We asked, so it's good. Now we have Cisco wanted to know, so now we have our things, and people have put in some stuff that they're at their hill. We got some non AI stuff like slow walkers. Yeah. What was the other one? Ranch milk. Although Jude, I don't know if you're pro or against on that one, so you can clear that up on the ranch milk. Um, but let's. I know we got off topic a little bit, which is fine. It's fun with the last little bit here. Obviously, let's look forward now towards the rest of 2025. We talked about Runway 4 and how we've seen it, but we haven't been able to use it. So obviously, that would be a huge deal if people jump in there and they're like, "Oh my god." Iteration over iteration over iteration, I get consistent characters. Not like it sort of works, but like, holy crap, this is really, really the same way we just saw with 4.0 with the image generation, where people are like, oh, it doesn't sometimes get the words. It gets like 99% of the words right in the image now all the time, right? Huge leap forward. We're not talking about six fingers anymore. Mostly, it doesn't like change the need to bend in the other direction. We're sort of past that. It still happens, but we're sort of past that. Doesn't happen as much. But so now, like, let's look forward. We know we've got some announcements coming out from, I think you were saying, Beth, Canva. And you know, they did their glow up event last year with their rapping that we all kind of made fun of. I know I did. It was interesting. I hope they've learned from that and they'll come out with a better glow up event or whatever they're calling it in 2025. Maybe not the wrapping. And then we have some other announcements, obviously like 5.0, which Sam has, you know, teased and said this is going to be amazing. What else? As far as looking at the next 3-6 months, I don't even want to go to the end of the year. Let's just do Q2 and Q3. What are you guys excited about? What do you think is going to drop? And what impact specifically do you think that have? Let's maybe just pick a couple here. Carl, what do you think?
I think to me, the biggest drop, I'm gonna have to go with the big one, right? GPT-5, because the promise of that,
Mm,
everything melds together. You're supposed to, because right now, right, you have to go to GPT 4.0 to get the image. You got O3 Mini High, you got O1 Pro, you got all that stuff. So, and then you start seeing some of the sliders, like if you follow Tibor, Blaho, you could see is like, some of the things that they're testing, but you can't see it. So it's like there's a slider component, no thinking, like I don't know what they call the original, but like more thinking or full thinking or extended thinking or whatever that is. And then so it will be apparently be able for you to, based on your prompt or your query, know which model it'll automatically use. Although I'm hoping that for people like power users who got used to all the different models and know which models they want to use for certain things, that you have that capability. Because if you now switch us back to just one and it's supposed to know, well, we want specific use case, like, oh, I want for this particular use case, I want O3 mini high or O4 mini high or whatever that is. But for regular, I want just 4.0. So I hope they give us the full control. But I think like that's the big one that everyone is kind of looking forward to.
By the way, Perplexity, just before we go to everybody else's, Perplexity does do a current good job if you have their paid model of picking which models to use on the back end. Sonar Pro, their deep research one. If you just kind of keep it on Pro nowadays, it's sort of before you would sort of pick more. And now I find that I just ask Pro whatever I want. And if I have a pretty simple question about when was something released, it's not going off and doing cited sources. It just literally gives me like one source that I get an answer back in like 10
Right.
seconds. Right. But if I ask a more detailed question, if I really get into it, it just naturally switches over to deep research and is like, yeah, this is what you need to answer that question, which I really, really appreciate. So there's a good example of something that's out there right now that's picking the right model. Of course, Llama said they should be able to do that as well. Beth and Jimmy, what do you guys think?
And actually, that's a really great example of doing both things and letting the consumer decide, because you can stay on Pro, it's doing interesting stuff. It does not answer me the way I want it to, so I never just leave it on Pro. But uh Claude 3.7 is one of the choices,
Mm.
and Claude 3.7 with thinking, with extended thinking, whatever that flavor is called, is part of the reasoning series. So like you really can fine tune that really far down. What I am looking forward to, and I hope like maybe China's going to do it and then everybody will bring theirs, because everyone's referenced it, but it still does not exist. I want to be able to have a conversation on my iPhone with an app about what I'm looking at. Right? I wanna be able to do that live conversation. Gemini can do it through AI Studio in real-time streaming. It's called something funky that I did not realize, but it's like 10 minutes uh, of screen time. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, you're a very smart assistant, and right now, I have to describe to you or take a picture and send it to you and do all the stuff so we can have a conversation. But I will buy the thing that lets you just sit next to me and look at my screen and work with me on that. And if you're inside my computer and you can see the screen because you're through the looking glass, I'm okay with that, but I need more than 10 minutes. Like, come on.
Uh,
Yeah,
I,
I'm
I,
with you.
I'm sort of a jump off of that, or related, I should say, a weave, if you will. Um, I want I want something to come out of nowhere that no one's really thinking about, but a true AI OS layer. So, something that's gonna be like, makes you ask, what's your OS? Is it Mac, Windows, Linux, AI? Whatever that's gonna be, that layer, and there's gonna be different versions of it that run on different hardware. You'll have your desktop version, you'll have your mobile version, you'll have your tablet version, and I wanna see a iteration of that, and I've seen enough news over time, and I've seen enough projects where they've kind of worked towards that. And, we've heard announcements about having an AI phone, working with like T-Mobile or, Deutsche Telekom and Perplexity and things like that. But I want to see this out of nowhere AI OS. And I think that, that'll definitely be disruptive. Q3 maybe? I guess this is hopes and dreams versus what we actually will see out there. But, I think that would be hugely beneficial to the entire AI sphere just because of how disruptive it is.
And I'll hold off on mine so that I can share this instead because I know you guys have all been waiting for it but didn't ask. Here is our Llama Llama red pajama version about Llama 4. So I will read it to you now as a bedtime story. You can save this for when your kids are going to bed tonight. Llama Llama version 4 learns and chats and so much more. Scout and Maverick lead the way. Behemoth's coming any day. Llama Llama answers alls with context windows wide and tall. 10 million tokens in its sight, handles questions day and night. Llama Llama sees and hears, text and images it steers. Multimodal, smart and quick, helping out with every trick. Llama Llama, AI's friend. On Meta's platforms, it will lend. From Facebook chats to Insta's threads, Llama's there to ease your dreads. Good night, everybody. All right. Have a great have a great day, guys. By the way, I did that in Meta first and it sucked. So I had to do it in ChatGPT, which did a much better job. So Llama Meta.ai using Llama 4 did not do a good enough, didn't do a well enough job for me to even want to share it. But I feel like ChatGPT did pretty good and I didn't have enough time to check it in Claude, which probably would have been better. So coming up on the rest of the week here, guys, as we wrap up, tomorrow, we're talking about can AI think before it speaks? Wednesday, which is talking about Anthropic's latest paper tracing the thoughts of a language model. Really, really interesting stuff there. Wednesday is the news. Thursday, we're going to be talking about an inspiration from Ali Miller, which will be really, really fun. And on a Friday, we have a show that we've been sort of teasing for a while now, which is getting into Google, Gemini, all the stuff we mentioned so much over the last week, but really just taking a pause and saying, hold on a second. Let's talk about what Google is either quietly or loudly releasing when it comes to AI, because I think it's more than people kind of realize what's out there. So Friday will be our opportunity to do a little bit of show and tell. As we did a couple weeks ago, we're going to be about it and we're going to show some examples of us using as much Gemini as we can get our hands on. And I will happily show the video effects side of it since I have access to that. So that's coming up the rest of the week. And then we have a whole bunch more topics next week. Come back and hang out with us. Don't forget, you can go to thedailyishow.com, sign up for the newsletter, which just went out yesterday, and all the other good stuff that goes along as well. We would love a like or subscribe if this is, if you enjoyed today's episode, that helps us out a ton. And thank you. A quick shout out to everybody on Spotify, because we have been just crushing lately on Spotify for some reason. The algorithm gods have really, really favored us in the last couple weeks, and we're growing really fast on Spotify. So thank you. If you're listening to us on Spotify, thank you for the likes. Thanks for the follows. That means a lot to us as well. That's it for today, guys. Have a great day. We will see you tomorrow on Tuesday for all the great Anthropic stuff. Bye.
Aloha.